You wake up in a cave. It's dark. It's wet. Something is breathing next to you, and you hope it's your cousin and not a bear. Congratulations, you're human now, sort of. You're mostly spine and fear, wrapped in damp animal skins, smell like old soup. You don't have a name, just a series of grunts and the occasional head nod that means don't die yet. You are not the top of the food chain. You are the breakfast special. There's no bed, no blanket, and certainly no pajamas. You sleep on moss, if you're lucky, or on stone that's colder than the look your mate gave you when you brought home. The wrong kind of mushroom again. Your pillow is your arm. It's also your only possession. Your morning shower is rain that leaks through the ceiling and slaps you in the face. Deodorant hasn't been invented, neither has shame or language. But the shame is implied. Breakfast is raw tuber, maybe a bug if it hasn't crawled away. You chew slowly, mostly because your jaw hurts and you only have 12 teeth left. That's normal. Your diet is about 80% unseasoned root and 20% accident. Your entire tribe is here in this cramped cave. Uncles, mothers, children, that guy who never pulls his weight, and a dog you didn't domesticate so much as tolerate. There is no privacy, no walls, no doors. You relieve yourself behind a rock and try not to make eye contact. Someone is always watching, even the owl, but today's a good day. You have fire, or rather, Oog has fire. Oog bangs two rocks together and grunts in triumph, then guards the flame like it's his emotional support squirrel. Fire keeps away hyenas, warms the air, and lets you sort of cook your meat. It also means you don't have to chew that rat for 4 hours this time. Luxury. Soon. Someone gets the idea to plant seeds. You don't know who started farming, but you'd like a word, because suddenly, instead of walking around and collecting food, you're hunched over a field full of damp dirt, trying to convince wheat to love you. It doesn't. It never will. You trade freedom for chores. The good news, you don't have to chase deer anymore. The bad news, now you chase weeds every day. Forever farming seems nice at first. Then your back starts hurting, your knees swell, and your spine begins making a noise like a broken fence. You stop walking upright. Your life expectancy drops. You trade variety for gruel. You start eating the same thing every day. Boiled sadness. Wheat gives you cavities, malnutrition, and a deeply boring menu. Your jaw shrinks. Your brain gets smaller, but hey, now you have clay pots. You invent pottery, not because you want to, but because you have nowhere to spit your chewed barley. These pots are ugly, lopsided, and constantly shattering. But now you can carry water without using your hands, which leaves them free to bleed from harvesting grain. With farming comes storage. With storage comes theft. With theft comes violence. Suddenly, you're defending a pile of onions like it's the Ark of the Covenant. You invent walls, then neighbors, then enemies, and then the cities begin. First it's just a cluster of huts. Then someone stacks mud bricks. Then someone builds a wall and starts calling himself king of the mud people. You now pay taxes in barley. You work the land, live next to 1,000 people, and somehow still feel alone. You've invented social hierarchy, organized religion, and 14-hour workdays. No one asks how you're doing. You wear itchy linen. You dig irrigation canals with a stick. You invent gods to explain the weather. Spoiler, they're angry. You start sacrificing things. Goats, grain, each other. The gods stay angry. You've gone from wild mammal to domesticated serf in 10,000 short years. And the worst part, you still can't sit down without a rock going somewhere it shouldn't. But don't worry, it only gets worse from here. The Bronze Age is coming, and with it, kings, taxes, war, and something called bureaucracy. Sleep tight. You live in Sumer, or Egypt, or maybe the Indus Valley, if your mud brick home hasn't floated away in the last monsoon. What matters is that it's dusty, there's a river nearby, and you are not in charge of anything. Your house is made of some clay that melts slightly every time it rains, which is always either not enough or far too much. The roof leaks, the walls crack. The floor is mostly just compacted dirt, upgraded occasionally by falling livestock. But hey, you live near the temple. That's fancy. You just can't go inside it. Why? Because temples are for priests, kings, gods, and occasionally angry spirits. You work outside in the heat, hauling stone blocks up ramps so someone else can get buried with golden spoons. Your job: build monuments you'll never enter, carry grain you'll never eat, and bow to people you'll never meet. You are illiterate, irrelevant, and irreplaceable only in the sense that there are about 10 more of you waiting behind the barn with identical sandals. Writing has been invented. Good news for historians, bad news for you, because now there's a permanent record of how much grain you didn't deliver this month. Your name might be a smear on a clay tablet that says lazy or cow kicked him. If you're one of the elite scribes, congratulations. You now get shouted at for smudging cuneiform characters into a brick with a stick. A single typo, and you're publicly humiliated or flogged with a reed. No delete key, no sympathy, and you're still paid in stale bread. The gods are watching, always, and they are not pleased. Your entire city believes the sky god is angry because the harvest was late, or because someone didn't sacrifice the right goat, or because you forgot to mumble the proper chant before opening the grain silo. Either way, you're the one getting blamed. Every thunderstorm is your fault. Every eclipse is divine judgment. The only known cure is offering more barley or more goats. Or, if it's really bad, your cousin. Your city has laws now, written ones, neatly carved into stone and placed in public squares so you can walk past them daily and try to remember not to accidentally insult your neighbor's ox again. The punishments are creative. Steal a fish, lose a hand, spill beer. Flogged, look at the wrong woman, flogged and then married. There is no appeal process. There is no process. You work from sunrise to sunset, 6 or 7 days a week, depending on how badly the king wants another monument built. The food is boiled grain, with the occasional onion. If you want variety, try starvation or conquest, because just over the hill, another city wants what you have, your barley, your goats, and possibly your entire town. Bronze is now a thing. The wealthy wield swords, helmets, and shiny daggers. You still wield a hoe and half a sandal. You fight back with whatever you find in the field, probably a sharp stick or emotional exhaustion. Your city's defenses are a wall made of mud, and the prayers of someone who's 3 drinks into the ritual wine. But despite the chaos, your kings are thriving. They live in palaces with actual roofs, drink wine from golden cups, and wear linen robes that don't itch. They claim to be descended from the gods, which is weird because you just saw one of them fall off a chariot drunk. Still, you kneel anyway. He might raise your taxes because, yes, taxes, you pay them, in grain, in fish, in time. You can't read, but you know what it means when the official comes around with a big stick and a big smile. You owe, you always owe. Empires rise. Akkad, Babylon, Assyria, Egypt, grand names, great walls, many statues. But your daily life changes very little. Whether the ruler's name is Sargon Hammurabi or that guy with the beard, you're still out in the field, praying it doesn't flood today. And when these cities fall, and they all do to invasion, drought, or internal collapse, home falls with them. You don't get a warning. Just smoke on the horizon and a sudden need to run. So you pack what you can, half a clay pot, a child, and one nervous goat, and follow the river, again, hoping someone else has a city that hasn't burned down yet. You are no one in a world full of kings, and your story is still just beginning. You wake up in a field, again. You don't know whether you're Greek, Roman, or Persian. You might be all three by lunchtime, depending on how the battle goes. The Bronze Age is over. The cities burned, the palaces collapsed, and the writing system forgot how to write. Out of the ashes crawled new civilizations armed with iron ideas and an extremely problematic understanding of citizenship. Your new wardrobe, a wool tunic and sandals made from something that was once alive. Your new job, soldier, laborer, peasant or slave, often all four, depending on who just conquered your town. You are surrounded by gods. Greek ones, Roman ones, Persian ones. Some are sort of human. Others are giant birds with opinions about taxes. Most require sacrifices, and none of them seem interested in helping. In Greece, they invent philosophy. Men in robes wander around asking questions no one asked, like what is justice? And what if nothing is real? You don't have time for this. You're busy trying not to get dysentery. They also invent democracy. The good news, it's a government based on freedom and participation. The bad news, you don't qualify. Voting is for rich, male citizens who own land and aren't currently being whipped in a quarry. You watch the assembly from the dirt dot. Then come the wars. Always the wars. You march off to fight people you've never met over ideas you don't understand. You hurl spears and hope your shield holds. You wear a bronze helmet that smells like last week's casualty. If you're lucky, you return home, missing only one limb. But often, you don't return at all. You become part of the landscape, a nameless bone beneath someone's vineyard. Meanwhile, Persia builds empires, huge ones, efficient ones. You help build roads across deserts, so troops can march more efficiently to kill someone else's cousin. You are taxed in wheat, salt, and time. The satrap takes what he wants, and you bow politely and starve later. Then Alexander arrives. He says he's liberating you. You say nothing. Your mouth is full of sand. He conquers the world by the time he's 30, dies immediately, and leaves behind a mess that lasts centuries. You help clean it up with a broom made from goat hair and disappointment. Rome rises. First, it's a republic. Then, it's an empire. Then, it's on fire. They build roads, magnificent roads. You die building them, crushed under marble or dehydrated. In a swamp, if you're lucky, your name gets scratched into a stone. Felix, age 19, crushed by logistics. Gladiators are the new entertainment. You go to the arena to forget your problems, then realize you are the entertainment. 1 minute you're a prisoner of war. The next, you're in a loincloth fighting a lion. The audience cheers. You lose a limb. The lion burps. Plagues begin to spread. hitching rides on ships, rats, and soldiers. You catch something with a long name and short timeline. Your town loses. Half its people in a week. The other half digs trenches. But civilization flourishes in its own cruel way. In Rome, aqueducts bring water. Baths are public. So are arguments. In Athens, they debate ethics. In Persia, they build gardens. In India and China, philosophy, medicine, and trade explode in brilliance. Not that you'll see any of it. You're still herding goats on a mountain, praying the next empire leaves you alone. Spoiler, it won't, because empires fall, but not before they tax you a little more. The coins shrink, the bread shrinks, but the taxes stay generous. You watch Rome crumble, not in one day, but over centuries of bad decisions, worse emperors, and repeated invasions by people who are tired of Roman arrogance and would like your farmland now, thank you. You lose your land again. You lose your language again. You lose your culture and your neighbors and most of your goats. But at least you're alive. You've survived the gods, the swords, the philosophy, the taxes, the lions, and the plagues. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of the classical world. Coming up next, Christianity, civil wars, barbarians, and the complete collapse of urban civilization. You're born in a wooden hut, sharing it with 12 people, a chicken, and one very overworked bucket. There's no insulation. The wind howls through the cracks. Half your family has rickets, and the other half has fleas. Your mother is 30. Your grandmother is dead. You will grow up chewing on bark and hoping the pigs don't freeze. Rome has fallen again. Civilization has collapsed into 1,000 little kingdoms, each ruled by someone with a sword, a flag, and a suspicious amount of cousins. You are a peasant. This is not up for debate. Your job is to survive. You plant rye, dig ditches, and try not to anger the local baron, who owns your village, your land, and possibly your soul. You pay rent in grain, eggs, and labor. You are paid in vague promises and bruises. Religion is your only certainty. Christianity is spreading through Europe, Islam across the Middle East and North Africa, and Buddhism east into Asia. You're aware of none of this. You just know the church bell rings and you're supposed to kneel. Literacy is reserved for monks and nobles. If you try to read, people get suspicious. If you try to write, they get violent. The local priest tells you everything you need to know. Heaven is nice. Hell is forever. And you're probably going to the second one unless you donate another chicken. You live in fear of sin, of disease, of taxes, and of women who know too much about herbs. You are told fun is dangerous. Dancing leads to the devil. So does laughter. So does everything, really. The Crusades happen. You are told it is your holy duty to travel 3,000 miles to fight. People you've never met over a city you'll never see. You go, you fight. You nearly die of dysentery outside a camel pen. You return 10 years later with a limp, a cough, and a stolen bronze spoon. Your farm is gone. Your wife remarried. Your cow is now owned by the church. Then the Mongols arrive. They do not want your religion. They do not want your land. They want everything, and quickly. They burn cities, flatten empires, and rewrite entire trade routes in horse blood. You don't even know where Mongolia is. You just know your neighbor disappeared and the sky smells like smoke. Meanwhile, in cities, people begin building cathedrals, massive stone monuments to faith and hierarchy. They rise over decades, sometimes centuries, taller than anything else for miles. You will never go inside, but they are beautiful. And you can admire the stained glass while coughing blood, because now the Black Death, a rat, sneezes in a harbor in Italy, and soon half of Europe is dead. Bodies pile in streets. Entire villages vanish. You bury your brother, then your mother, then your sense of hope. The priest says it's punishment for sin. You wonder what sin a newborn could commit. You try herbs. You try leeches. You try prayer. Nothing works. You consider moving to the forest. The wolves have better health care. After the plague, things shift. There's more land, fewer mouths. You ask for better wages. Lords panic. They start writing laws to stop you from leaving the manor. Some call it serfdom. You call it prison with more mud. You marry at 14. Not for love, for goats, land, and political necessity. You have 6 children. For die, one becomes a monk. One disappears during tax season. You live to 35. This is considered a win. If you're lucky, you die in bed. If not, in a ditch, a crusade, or from stepping on a rusty nail while fleeing a fire that started in your hay pile. But life isn't all bad. Markets appear, towns grow, songs are sung, stories are told. Some of them are even happy. You sit by the fire at night, wrapped in wool and coughing into the void, listening to tales of knights and dragons and places where bread isn't made of dust. You won't live to see the Renaissance, but somewhere, someone is carving a book from a block of wood. Somewhere, a man named Gutenberg is tinkering with metal letters. Somewhere, an artist is drawing angels that look suspiciously like peasants. The world is changing. You just won't be around to see it. Sleep now. The church bells have stopped ringing. The rats are quiet, and the sky is beginning to shift. Tomorrow, someone else will be born in a hut with a bucket. The Renaissance is happening. Artists are painting angels with realistic thighs. Philosophers are inventing science. Anatomists are cutting open bodies and writing about spleens. You're still planting barley. You don't notice the Renaissance because you're cold, illiterate, and stuck in a village where the most exciting development is a slightly better bucket. The printing press arrives and revolutionizes the world. Books are cheaper. Ideas spread like wildfire. Rebellions, reformation, revolutions. You stare at the printed page like it's witchcraft. Because to you, it is. Somewhere Martin Luther nails things to doors. In your town, people nail things to trees, usually dead rats, to ward off spirits. The Enlightenment is on the horizon, but you're still wondering why your cow stopped giving milk. Then, the ships come. Explorers set sail in every direction, mostly west and wrong. They discover lands that already contain millions of people, declare ownership, and begin immediately building gallows. If you live in the Americas, this is the chapter where your entire civilization starts burning. You were introduced to new concepts like smallpox, Catholicism, and Portugal, often in that order. If you live in Europe, you start hearing about spices, gold, and miracles across the sea. You were told it's all going to make your life better. You are wrong. You are taxed to pay for ships you'll never see and wars you didn't vote for. Gunpowder changes everything. Battles are now louder, smokier, and even more confusing. You're still wearing wool and holding a rake. You were conscripted into some duke's private war, handed a musket that misfires half the time, and told to march into fog. You disappear, You try to improve your station. Maybe become a merchant. You gather goods, hire a mule, head to town. On the way, you're robbed by bandits, taxed by guards, accused of heresy by monks, and die of fever in a swamp. But it's not all misery. There are cities now, real cities, with paved streets, maps, markets, and diseases you've never heard of. Coffee arrives, sugar arrives, so do cigarettes, chocolate, and tea, luxuries extracted from colonies, soaked in blood. You'll never taste them. But your landlord's wife has a sugar spoon shaped like a swan. The kings are getting stronger. Absolutism becomes fashionable. Monarchs begin announcing they were chosen by God and should therefore own everything, especially your wheat. You pay taxes for wars, navies, Versailles, opera houses, and mistresses with diamond hairpins. You live in a one-room shack and haven't owned a chicken since the drought. You hear rumors of the new world. You dream of escaping, starting fresh. But ships are expensive, and they don't take poor passengers unless you're willing to row, starve, or die on the way. Many do all three. Colonial empires rise: Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, British, French. Flags are planted. Treaties are signed by people with powdered wigs and no moral compass. Indigenous people are declared inconvenient. Villages are drafted, enslaved, or burned, sometimes all at once. The world becomes connected. Trade flows across oceans. So does disease. You catch something exotic from a man who sneezed on a bolt of silk. You die in bed. A priest mutters Latin over your body. You never saw a single silk thread. Meanwhile, in Asia, the Ottomans, Mughals, Safavids, and Qing are building empires of their own. Palaces rise. Scholars write poetry. Art flourishes. If you're born in the wrong province, though, you're still just digging irrigation ditches for men who wear better shoes. In Africa, kingdoms trade gold, salt, and sadly, people. Slave raids increase. Coastal cities grow rich. Inland villages vanish. If you're caught, you are shackled and marched to a coast you've never seen. If you survive the boat ride, you become someone else's property on a continent you didn't know existed. You're told this is the age of progress. You look around. Your tools are rusting. Your roof leaks. Your wife is pregnant with child number 7. You still owe your landlord 3 goats and half your soul. But somewhere, people are dreaming of liberty, of reason, of something called natural rights. You won't live to see them. Your children might. If they survive scurvy, conscription, famine, plague, debt, fire, war, wolves, childbirth, and taxes. Sleep now. The age of revolutions is approaching. You'll want to be rested for that. You used to wake up to roosters. Now you wake up to whistles, smoke, and the sound of your child coughing into a pillow made of industrial dust. Welcome to the industrial age. You live in a city now. That's a generous word. It's mostly bricks, soot, and people yelling. Your job: factory, textile mill, coal mine, matchstick plant. Doesn't matter. The hours are long, the air is thick, and you can't feel your fingers by lunchtime. You're paid in coins that disappear instantly into rent, bread, and funeral expenses. Your children work beside you. They're small, which means they can fit between the gears. This is considered an advantage. The Enlightenment happened a century ago. Philosophers discussed liberty, equality, and reason in well-lit rooms while sipping wine. You still can't read. Your enlightenment consists of a single gas lamp, flickering above your shared bunk, Revolutions begin popping up everywhere. The American colonies revolt over taxes on tea. You revolt over the price of soap. Nobody listens. Then comes France. The French Revolution sounds romantic in books. It's less charming when you're holding your friend's head in a basket. The guillotine becomes a national mascot. Bread prices remain unchanged. Napoleon rises. Europe panics. You are drafted again. You march across muddy fields wearing boots made for someone else. You lose toes to frostbite and gain a new appreciation for surrender. After Napoleon falls, everything pretends to go back to normal. It doesn't. Now there are railroads. Iron snakes slither across the land, bringing goods, passengers, and occasional explosions. You've never ridden a train, but you've nearly been run over by one. The factory grows. So does the city. Chimneys multiply like rats. So do the rats. You live in a one-room tenement with 6 family members and a ceiling that leaks coal dust. You cough. Everyone coughs. It's a local hobby. Your country has an empire now, or it's been colonized by one. Either way, you're not in charge. The British paint the globe pink and send steamships to civilize everyone. The French bring grammar and rifles. The Belgians bring horror. The Dutch bring taxes. The Americans bring factories, then warships. Everyone brings a flag. If you live in Asia, you're trading silk for bullets. If you live in Africa, they want your rubber, your gold, and your body. If you resist, they bring Maxim guns. You do not win. In India, you farm opium for Queen Victoria. In China, you're forced to buy it back. That's called global trade. You're told it's progress. Factories produce everything. Cloth, glass, screws, corpses. You work 6 days a week and drink on the 7th. Alcohol becomes both religion and medicine. Science advances. Germ theory, anesthesia, vaccines, for the first time in history. A surgeon might wash his hands before sawing off your leg. Now you live long enough to hate your job for decades instead of dying at 30. This is considered an improvement. Political ideologies multiply. Liberalism, conservatism, socialism, nationalism. Nobody agrees on anything except that workers should probably get paid more and die less. Unions form. Strikes happen. Sometimes you're shot for demanding shoes. Women want rights. Men laugh. That laughter will age poorly. Cities grow fatter and meaner. Skyscrapers rise. So do poverty, smog, and crime. You can now die in an elevator accident instead of a plague. Modernity. Education spreads. Your child might go to school if they survive cholera. Meanwhile, at the edge of the century, the rich throw balls and drink champagne. You watch from the alley, covered in soot, holding a crust of bread and wondering what a ball is. You hear rumors of a coming war. The newspapers are proud. They say it'll be short. Glorious. Over by Christmas. You cough again. This one feels deeper. Your lungs have the texture of old paper. You go to work anyway, because there are no sick days in this century. You wake up to the sound of artillery. It's 1914. Europe is tearing itself apart over empires, alliances, and mustaches. You're in a trench, soaked in mud, rats, and someone else's regrets. Your rifle jams. Your boots are moldy. Your friend hasn't spoken since the gas attack. You used to dream of being a poet. Now you dream of socks. They call it the war to end all wars. Spoiler, it doesn't. You return home with shell shock, a medal no one cares about, and no job. There's a pandemic waiting for you too. The Spanish flu, it kills millions. Just in case the war missed you. The 1920s arrive. Jazz plays, hemlines rise. So do stock markets. People are dancing. You are not. You're working, still, probably, in a hat factory. Or maybe laying bricks for a skyscraper you'll never enter. Then 1929 happens. The stock market collapses like your savings. Breadlines form. You wait in one for 3 hours, then trade your shoes for soup. The Great Depression begins. Everyone is depressed. In the 1930s, fascism rises like a dark comedy without punchlines. Hitler happens. Mussolini too. You hoped never to see another war. Surprise, World War II arrives. Now there are tanks, planes, and things that explode when you step on them. You're cannon fodder again, this time with slightly better boots. The Holocaust happens, an atrocity so enormous that words flinch to atomic bombs. Later, the war ends, Japan glows, Europe is rubble. You're somehow alive. Then it gets weird. The Cold War begins. It lasts decades. You fear nuclear annihilation before breakfast. Sirens become lullabies. Children practice hiding under desks as if plywood shields them from atomic fire. The 1950s promised domestic bliss. Fridges, cars, TV dinners. You still can't afford any of it. The suburbs expand like mold. You live in a concrete box with wallpaper that peels and neighbors that stare. Civil rights movements rise. You march or you watch. Either way, someone sets the dogs on you. The world changes, slowly, painfully. Vietnam happens. No one understands why. The 1970s give you disco and inflation. The 1980s give you shoulder pads, cocaine, and the illusion of progress. Then comes the 1990s and the internet. At first it's magical. Emails, chat rooms, the promise of free knowledge. You spend 3 minutes downloading a picture of a cat. Then it gets faster. Then it never stops. Now it's the 2000s. Phones become smart. You become tired. You check the news while brushing your teeth. It tells you the climate is collapsing, bees are dying, and billionaires are launching themselves into space. You live in a connected world. Connected to what? No one is sure. Your fridge has Wi-Fi. Your job has no benefits. Your back hurts from sitting, but you can't afford to stand. AI is coming for your job. Automation already took half of it. You're now required to be passionate about spreadsheets. You're not. Housing costs more than a spaceship. Your degree is useless. Your therapist is booked. Your mental health is discussed in terms of apps. Everyone is constantly online, posting, scrolling, liking, panicking. You learn about 5 new disasters before breakfast. You haven't been truly bored in years. You miss boredom. The climate warms, the ice melts, the storms intensify. You buy a reusable straw. It feels like using a teaspoon to bail out the Titanic. You try mindfulness. You try yoga. You try deleting social media. You reinstall it within the hour. Technology makes life easier and harder. You can speak to anyone across the world, but you ignore the people in your house. Your attention span has the lifespan of a fruit fly. Politics feels like performance art. Truth is optional. Reality bends to the algorithm. And yet people still fall in love, still plant gardens, still write bad poetry, still have babies and worry about them endlessly. You sit in bed at night, staring at a glowing screen, unsure whether you're informed, entertained, manipulated, or just tired. You're exhausted. Civilization has never been more advanced, or more confusing, but at least you can order pizza from your phone while doom scrolling about the collapse of democracy. That's something. Sleep now. You've made it through 300,000 years. Try to make it through tomorrow.